Good morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Tuesday, March 25th, 2014. The New York metropolitan area and New England is preparing for yet another snowstorm. It's going to start later this evening. Hopefully this will be the last one, although we've been saying that for the past few. Royal Sun Alliance, the big British insurer, said today that it would sell about 1.4 billion new shares at a 40% discount on Monday. The 40% discount will be against the stock's closing price on Monday. This will plug the capital shortfall triggered by weather claims in the UK, as well as accounting irregularities at the firm's UK division. The rights issue is fully underwritten already by the investment banks, JP Morgan, Cazenove, and Bank of America Merrill Lynch, so it's going to raise about $1.25 billion after investment banking fees and other costs are deducted. The RSA CEO, Stephen Hester, said that this money would allow the company to proceed, quote, without undue risk of suboptimal decisions forced by capital shortage or instability. Former RSA Group CEO Simon Lee and the current Western Europe CEO Adrian Brown both saw their pay cut by more than 50% in 2013. Mr. Lee did not receive a payoff for his dismissal/retirement. He was replaced by Royal Bank of Scotland former CEO Stephen Hester. However, he still is entitled to an £824,000 salary for 12 months in lieu of the 12 months notice. The search for the downed Malaysian 777 is now reduced to an area the size of only Texas and Oklahoma in the southern Indian Ocean. Yesterday there had been great optimism that the wreckage would be found. However, very poor weather in that area forced a 24-hour suspension. The Australians are now going to begin the search as soon as dawn arises there, which will be in about 10 hours' time. It seems, though, however, that the Malaysians have finally recognized the fact that the plane is in fact down. Yesterday, the country's prime minister, after sending out an instant mail message to the families of the passengers on the plane, came out in a press conference and said that they must face the fact that the plane is irretrievably lost. The search efforts are now all focused on the southern part of the southern corridor, down about 1,200 miles southwest of the Australian city of Perth, which is an awful where the plane was supposed to be going. News from the Crimea, essentially none. The Russians have it locked up. Vladimir Putin was booted from the group of G8 nations yesterday. We reported that, so it's now down to G7. President Obama remains in Europe. He's going to stay there for 2 more days, meeting with European leaders. More sanctions are supposedly being prepared now to be levied against the Russians. Bloomberg News is reporting that as much as $140 billion U.S. in cash might be outflowing from Russia this week. Visa and MasterCard still remain completely shut down. So if you're a tourist right now in Moscow, you're having a lot of problems. That devastating mudslide in Washington state, the number of people officially killed now has risen to 14. Yesterday it was 8. However, there are 176 people still missing or unaccounted for. Authorities are hoping that that figure will decline dramatically as people turn up or report themselves as still being alive. However, fears of fresh mudslides are causing some great caution insofar as searchers looking for any survivors. They're saying that at this point. On Saturday morning, the slide, which was triggered after rain-soaked embankments along State Route 530 gave way, swept into a small fishing village named Aso, about 55 miles northeast of Seattle, leaving about 1 square mile covered in mud. Initial indications that the April 1st reinsurance catastrophe renewals would provide some respite for reinsurer pricing have proven misleading, as firm order terms have hit the market with heavy rate reductions. There had been an expectation shared by underwriting and broker sources that market fundamentals on supply and demand would be restrained by the loyalty of the Japanese cedents and their partnership approach to reinsurers. The April 1st renewals are traditionally dominated by Japanese and Asian buyers. The reductions for many of the Japanese excess of loss cat covers are about 15%. They have been predicted to be about 8 or 9%. Meanwhile, the UK cat market has seen some reductions of 17.5 to 20%. So this continues to get worse for reinsurers. In Chile, more than 300 earthquakes in the far northern part of the country in the past week have kept a lot of people on edge. The unnerving activity began with a strong 6.7 quake on March 16th. That caused 100,000 people to briefly evacuate, but the land still has not settled down. A seismologist at the University de Chile said the situation is out of the ordinary. There's a mix of tremors and their aftershocks that make things more complex to evaluate. We can't rule out a larger quake. The strongest earthquake ever recorded on Earth occurred in Chile in 1960, a 9.5 that killed more than 5,000 people. Federal investigators in Illinois are staying quiet about what could have caused the crash of a Chicago Transit Authority train, a commuter train, at O'Hare Airport at 3 o'clock in the morning yesterday. The train jumped its tracks, crossed a concrete platform, and then crashed up a heavily used escalator that takes travelers and workers into O'Hare Airport. It's a miracle that nobody died. Investigators say that if the crash had occurred during the day when the trains are often full and the escalators are packed with people, many people could possibly have died. A train running up a crowded escalator could have been a worst-case scenario, said an investigator. When pedestrians are hit by a train, it is usually fatal. That's true. The union representing the train operator said fatigue might have played a role in the crash at the tunnel underneath O'Hare Airport, which is the country's second busiest airport, suggesting that the female operator may have dozed off. The operator, who was not immediately identified, had started work at around 8 a.m. on Sunday, but had recently put in a lot of overtime. 8 p.m. on Sunday, but had recently put in a lot of overtime. Well, that's a tragedy averted, though it's unfortunate that people were injured. That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.